chosen one. They studied you for months, watched your patterns, memorized your schedule, learned your weaknesses, mapped out your blind spots, built an entire strategy around the version of you they thought they understood. And then you changed, not gradually, overnight. One decision, one boundary, one moment of clarity, and their entire playbook became worthless. Every assumption they made about you, wrong. Every prediction they calculated, obsolete. Every trap they set, empty. They thought they were playing chess against a beginner. But you just flipped the board, and they realized too late. They were never playing against you. They were playing against the universe protecting you, and the universe does not lose. Right now, somewhere, someone is having a complete meltdown because you did something they swore you would never do. You walked away from something they thought you needed. You said no to something they assumed you would chase. You saw through something they were certain you would believe, and that one move, that single shift in your energy, collapsed months of planning. Their entire strategy was built on the old you, the confused you, the people-pleasing you, the version of you that second-guessed your intuition and overrode your inner voice to keep the peace. But that version does not exist anymore, and they did not get the memo until it was too late. Here is what makes this moment so powerful. They cannot go back and rebuild. They cannot start over. They already showed you their cards. They already revealed their intentions. They already exposed the infrastructure of their manipulation. And now they have to sit with the reality that not only did their plan fail, but you know exactly what they tried to do. That awareness you carry now is permanent. They lost the element of surprise forever. And in the game they were playing, surprise was the only weapon they had. If something in your chest just shifted reading that, if you felt a click of recognition, go ahead and hit the like button because that response is not random. That is your spirit confirming you are exactly who this message is for. And before we go deeper, let me say this. The enemy is not afraid of your strength. They are afraid of your awareness. Strength, they can work around. Awareness, they cannot. Once you see the system, you cannot unsee it, and you just saw everything. Let me show you what happened in 5 distinct phases. 5 moments where their plan fell apart piece by piece while you were not even trying to fight back. You were just existing in your power, and that alone was enough to dismantle everything they built. This is not theory. This is the exact sequence that just played out in the invisible realm. And when you understand the pattern, you will never doubt your position again. Phase 1. The prediction error. They thought they had you figured out. They watched you for weeks, maybe months. They studied your reactions like a scientist documenting patterns. They noted when you stayed quiet instead of speaking up. They tracked when you bent to keep peace instead of defending your position. They catalogued every time you chose harmony over confrontation. They paid attention to how long it took you to respond to messages. They monitored what made you uncomfortable. They documented what made you doubt yourself. And from all that data, they built a profile, a psychological blueprint, a map of who they thought you were. They convinced themselves they could predict your next move with accuracy. They told themselves you were predictable, manageable, controllable, easy to guide in whatever direction served them. They even practiced their approach, rehearsed their lines, planned their timing. They discussed it with others who were in on the scheme. They felt confident, almost smug, because the data was solid. The patterns were clear. You had shown them exactly who you were through months of consistent behavior. That confidence was their first mistake. What they failed to understand is that chosen ones are not static beings. You are not a fixed personality type that can be solved like an equation. You are a living frequency that shifts based on divine assignment. and the universe had been preparing you for this exact moment. Every meditation you sat through, every boundary you practiced setting in smaller situations, every time you honored your intuition even when it did not make logical sense, all of that was training. The universe was upgrading your operating system while they were still studying the old version. Because here is what they missed. Chosen ones do not stay static. You are not the same person you were 6 months ago. You are not even the same person you were last week. Your frequency shifts when the universe needs it to shift. Your boundaries strengthen when your season requires it. Your discernment sharpens when a test approaches. And the version of you they studied is not the version they encountered when they executed their plan. They prepared for someone who would hesitate. You moved with certainty. They expected someone who would question themselves. You trusted your gut. They anticipated confusion. You brought clarity. Their entire prediction model failed in the first 30 seconds. Imagine a fighter spending months studying an opponent's old footage only to step in the ring and realize that opponent trained in a completely different style since those tapes were made. That is what just happened. They based their entire approach on outdated intelligence, and by the time they realized you had upgraded, it was too late to adjust. The confusion you saw on their face, the pause in their execution, the slight panic in their energy, that was them realizing in real time that they prepared for the wrong person. You are not who they thought you were, and that miscalculation cost them everything. Phase 2, the timing collapse. Their plan required perfect timing. This is critical to understand. Manipulation is not just about what you do, it is about when you do it. They needed you to be in a specific emotional state at a specific moment. Vulnerable, lonely, desperate, uncertain, questioning yourself. They were watching your life like hawks, waiting for that window. That perfect storm of circumstances that would make you more susceptible to their influence. Maybe they were waiting for you to have a bad day at work. Maybe they were waiting for a relationship to end. Maybe they were waiting for a financial stress to peak. Maybe they were waiting for you to feel isolated from your support system. They needed you distracted, overwhelmed, or disconnected from your intuition. They had the whole thing scheduled in their minds. They were just waiting for you to enter that state so they could move. They had already decided what they would say, how they would position themselves, what role they would play: helper, supporter, solution provider. They had it all mapped out. They just needed you to be in the right emotional weather for their script to work. But you never entered that state. And this is where divine protection shows up in ways people do not recognize. You stayed grounded when they needed you scattered. You stayed clear when they needed you confused. You stayed connected to your inner voice when they needed you doubting yourself. Even on days that were hard, you did not break in the specific way they needed you to break. You processed things differently than they predicted. You reached out to different people than they expected. You found stability in sources they did not account for. You stayed grounded when they needed you scattered. You stayed clear when they needed you confused. You stayed connected to your inner voice when they needed you doubting yourself. And every day you remained stable, their window got smaller. Every day you stayed aligned, their opportunity faded. They kept waiting for the breakdown that never came. They kept expecting the crack that never formed. And while they were waiting, the universe was strengthening you, fortifying you, preparing you for the exact moment they would try to strike. So when they finally made their move, because they could not wait any longer, you were not in the state they needed you to be in. You were not weak, you were not confused, you were not desperate. You were centered, aware, protected. Their timing was off because your foundation was solid. And when timing is everything in manipulation, being off by even a fraction means total failure. They needed you off balance. You stood firm. They needed you reactive. You stayed calm. They needed you seeking external validation. You were getting confirmation directly from the universe. Their plan required a version of you that no longer exists. And when they realized that, panic set in. Phase 3, the witness problem. Here is something they did not account for. Chosen ones are never truly alone. Even when you are physically by yourself, you carry a presence that observes, a spiritual awareness that records, an inner knowing that files everything. They thought no one was watching. They thought they could move in secret. They thought their manipulation was invisible. They assumed that because you were the only one in the room with them, there was no accountability, no one to verify your version of events, no one to confirm what you sensed. But every move they made was being documented in the spiritual realm. Every lie was noted. Every manipulation was archived. Every false smile was catalogued. They were operating like they had privacy, but the whole time, heaven was recording. And here is where it gets interesting. The moment they tried to execute their plan, the universe started sending you witnesses, not coincidentally, strategically. People you barely knew suddenly mentioning things that confirmed your suspicions. Someone at the coffee shop making an offhand comment that validated exactly what you had been feeling. A stranger sharing their story that mirrored your situation in eerie detail. Random conversations that validated your intuition. A friend calling out of nowhere to check on you, asking questions that revealed they had noticed the same red flags you had. Signs that appeared at the exact moment you needed clarity. Songs with lyrics that spoke directly to your situation. Numbers that kept appearing. Messages that found you through the most unlikely channels. The universe was not just protecting you, it was building a case, gathering evidence, stacking proof, calling in witnesses from angles they never considered. People who saw their behavior in other contexts and could confirm patterns you had only experienced privately. Situations that exposed their character to multiple observers simultaneously. Moments where their masks slipped in front of people they thought they had fooled. So that when the truth finally surfaced, it would not be your word against theirs. It would be undeniable, observable, confirmed by multiple sources they never knew existed, corroborated by people who had no reason to lie, verified by circumstances that could not be manipulated. They thought they controlled the narrative, but chosen ones do not operate in narratives. You operate in truth, and truth has a way of surfacing even when every human system tries to suppress it. The universe made sure other people saw what they were doing. Made sure you were not the only one noticing inconsistencies. Made sure that when everything unraveled, you would have confirmation from sources they never considered. They wanted to isolate you, make you think you were seeing things that were not there, make you doubt your perception. But the universe kept sending validation, kept confirming your gut, kept proving that what you sensed was real. And every confirmation made their plan weaker. Every witness made their lies harder to maintain. They were not just fighting you. They were fighting a coordinated divine operation, and they never stood a chance. If you are sitting there right now realizing people have been confirming things you felt but could not prove, drop a comment below and just say confirmation. Let me know this is landing, because this is not coincidence. This is the universe showing you that your intuition was right all along. Phase 4, the energy mismatch. They needed you to match their frequency. That was essential to their entire operation. If they could get you angry, you would make emotional decisions. Decisions you would regret later. Decisions that would compromise your position. Decisions that would make you look unstable to others. If they could get you desperate, you would accept things you normally would not. Lower your standards, compromise your values. Settle for situations that did not serve you just to escape the discomfort they were creating. If they could get you defensive, you would waste energy explaining yourself instead of moving forward. You would get trapped in their narrative, stuck proving your innocence to people who already decided you were guilty, exhausting yourself in arguments that were never meant to be won, only meant to drain you. They needed to pull you into their vibrational field, get you operating on their level, make you engage with their chaos, because as long as you stayed elevated, their tactics could not land. This is not metaphorical. This is actual energetic physics. Low-frequency attacks cannot touch high-frequency targets. That is spiritual law. It is like trying to hack a system that is operating on a different network entirely. The code does not even compute. So they tried everything to bring you down to their frequency provocation, saying things designed to trigger you guilt trips, making you feel responsible for their emotions and their choices, fake emergencies, creating crises that required your immediate attention and emotional investment, sob stories, playing victim to manipulate your compassion, passive aggression, subtle digs wrapped in jokes or concern, anything to get a reaction, anything to make you drop your guard and engage on their terms. They tried to bait you into defending yourself publicly. They wanted you in messy exchanges where perception would matter more than truth. They tried to make you jealous by flaunting things they thought you wanted. They tried to make you feel guilty for having boundaries. They sent flying monkeys, people who would unknowingly deliver their poison under the guise of concern or advice. They even tried reverse psychology, pretending they wanted distance, hoping you would chase. Every tactic in the manipulation handbook got deployed because they were getting desperate. Nothing was working, and they could feel their window closing, but you did not take the bait. You stayed calm when they needed you chaotic. You stayed silent when they needed you reactive. You stayed in your power when they needed you destabilized, and every time you refused to lower your frequency, their plan lost effectiveness. They were throwing punches at an altitude they could not reach, screaming into a realm that does not register their voice, trying to manipulate someone who was no longer playing their game. The mismatch was so severe that their attacks started backfiring. The energy they sent out with malicious intent hit a wall and bounced back to them. You did not have to fight. You just had to maintain your altitude, and gravity handled the rest. This is why they are exhausted right now, why they seem more drained than you even though they were the ones attacking, because they were spending energy trying to affect someone who was spiritually untouchable. They were operating from ego. You were operating from alignment. They were forcing. You were flowing. They were scheming. You were being. And in that mismatch, they lost all their power. You do not defeat the enemy by fighting at their level. You defeat them by refusing to descend phase 5, the reversal point. This is the moment everything flipped. The instant their plan did not just fail, it reversed. The trap they set for you caught them. The lie they spread about you exposed their character. The chaos they tried to create in your life landed in theirs. This was not karma in some abstract future sense. This was immediate, instant, surgical. The universe took every weapon they formed and turned it into evidence against them. Every scheme became a testimony of their true nature. Every manipulation became a warning sign for others. They thought they were tearing you down. They were actually destroying their own credibility. And the wildest part is you did not have to do anything. You did not have to defend yourself. You did not have to expose them. You did not have to fight back. You just kept walking in integrity, kept honoring your boundaries, kept trusting your intuition, kept standing in your truth, and the universe handled the rest. Their own actions became their downfall. Their own words became their conviction. Their own energy became their prison. They set a trap and walked into it themselves. That is what happens when you come against someone the universe is protecting. The weapon does not just fail, it backfires. Right now they are sitting in the aftermath wondering how everything went so wrong. How did the person they thought they had control over end up completely untouched while their own life is unraveling? How did their plan not just fail but reverse so spectacularly? The answer is simple. They were never fighting you. They were fighting the force that assigned you, and that force does not play fair. It plays to win, and it always protects its chosen ones. Now let me show you the 3 power shifts that happened in the invisible realm while this was playing out. 3 things that changed in your spiritual authority that the enemy can feel but cannot fight. These are not future predictions. These are present realities. You already stepped into these dimensions. You just might not have language for it yet. But once you hear it named, you will recognize it immediately. Power Shift 1. You became unmovable. There was a moment. Maybe you remember it. Maybe it happened so subtly you did not notice. When something inside you just settled, a decision was made at a soul level. Not with words, not with a formal declaration, but with a knowing that came from so deep within you that it felt less like a choice and more like a remembering. A line was drawn that you knew you would never uncross again. Not because someone told you to draw it, not because you read it in a book, because your spirit reached a point of such clarity that the line drew itself. You stopped negotiating with your boundaries. There was a time when your boundaries were flexible, when you would move them based on who was asking and what story they told, when you would make exceptions because you did not want to seem rigid or unkind, when you would override your own limits to keep peace or maintain connection. But something shifted. Your boundaries became laws, non-negotiable, not up for debate, not subject to someone else's feelings about them. You stopped explaining your standards. You stopped justifying why you needed what you needed. You stopped defending your right to say no. You stopped apologizing for requiring respect, honesty, reciprocity, and alignment. You just decided, and that decision was not emotional. It was not reactive. It was absolute, final, rooted in a knowing that came from somewhere deeper than logic. People who knew the old you noticed immediately. They tested the new boundary, expecting it to move like it used to. It did not. They tried the old tactics that used to make you reconsider. They did not work. They pulled out the guilt, the history, the obligation, the what we have been through together card, and you stood there unmoved. Not because you did not care, because you cared about yourself more. Not in a selfish way, in a sovereign way. You realized that betraying yourself to comfort someone else was not love. It was self-abandonment, and you were done abandoning yourself for people who would not even show up for you properly. That is when you became unmovable. Not stubborn, not rigid, unmovable. Like a mountain that does not argue with the wind. It does not fight the storm. It does not defend its position. It just stands, solid, rooted, unshaken by weather that was never strong enough to move it in the first place. You stopped being someone who could be talked out of their knowing. Stopped being someone who could be convinced to doubt what they discerned. Stopped being someone who needed external permission to trust their own spirit. Stopped seeking validation from people who were not qualified to validate you in the first place. And the moment you became unmovable, every strategy built on moving you became useless. They can push all they want now. You are not budging. They can manipulate all they want. You are not confused. They can pressure all they want. You are not caving. You became the thing they cannot shift, and that terrifies them more than anything you could say or do. Power Shift 2. You became unreadable. They used to be able to predict you, read your energy, know how you would respond, but something changed. You stopped being an open book, not because you became secretive or closed off, because you started moving by divine timing instead of human patterns. You stopped operating from habit and started operating from discernment. You stopped reacting and started responding. And the space between those two things made you unpredictable to anyone who was not aligned with your highest good. Now when they look at you, they cannot get a read. They do not know what you are thinking. They do not know what you will do next. They do not know if you are aware of their games or completely unbothered. That uncertainty is driving them crazy, because manipulators need predictability. They need to know how you will react so they can plan 3 steps ahead. But you stopped giving them data. You stopped feeding the algorithm they were using to decode you. You started moving in a way that only makes sense to you and the universe, and that made you dangerous. Not because you are aggressive, because you are unknown, and the unknown cannot be controlled. Power Shift 3, you became untouchable. This is the final shift and the most important one. You stepped into a frequency where their attacks cannot land, not because you are blocking them, because they are operating on a wavelength that no longer intersects with yours. Think of it like this. They are yelling in a language you do not speak anymore, throwing punches in a dimension you are not standing in, casting spells in a realm you already graduated from. You are not defending against them. You are just existing in a place they do not have access to. This is what it means to be untouchable, not arrogant, not invincible, just spiritually elevated to a point where lower frequency warfare cannot reach you. Their words do not land, their energy does not stick, their intentions do not manifest. Not because you are fighting them off, because you are standing somewhere they cannot enter. You became a walking force field, a frequency they cannot hack, a signal they cannot intercept. And the harder they try, the more exhausted they become, because they are spending energy attacking a version of you that is not even occupying the same spiritual space anymore. This is where you are right now, unmovable, unreadable, untouchable. That is your current spiritual location, and the enemy knows it. That is why they are panicking. That is why their energy feels frantic. That is why they are scrambling to regain control of a situation they never actually controlled. They are realizing they were playing a game where the rules just change, and they do not even know the new rules. Meanwhile, you are not playing anymore. You are just being, and your being is more powerful than anything they could scheme. Here is what you need to understand about this moment. You are not celebrating too early. You are not getting ahead of yourself. This is not premature victory. This is confirmation of a shift that already occurred. The battle is not coming. It already happened, and you already won, not because you fought harder, because you elevated higher. They brought warfare. You brought frequency. And frequency always wins. So what do you do now? You keep walking. You do not look back to see if they are recovering. You do not slow down to check if they learned their lesson. You do not pause to see if they are sorry. You keep moving forward in the direction the universe is pulling you, because your assignment is not to fix them. Your assignment is not to teach them. Your assignment is not to wait for them to understand. Your assignment is to keep rising, keep evolving, keep becoming, and let the universe handle everything behind you. They wanted to stop you. All they did was prove you cannot be stopped. They wanted to break you. All they did was reveal you are unbreakable. They wanted to control you. All they did was show the universe exactly why you needed to be freed from their influence. Every attack was actually a setup for your elevation. Every scheme was actually a requirement for your promotion. Every trap was actually a test you passed without even studying. You did not just survive their agenda, you shattered it. And now you are walking into a season they have no access to. Final word. If this message hit something deep, if you felt seen in a way that confirmed what you have been sensing, do not keep it to yourself. Hit the like button right now, subscribe if you have not already. Drop the number 888 in the comments if you are stepping into your unmovable, untouchable, unreadable power, and share this with someone who needs to know they are not paranoid, they are perceptive. Your engagement pushes this truth to more people who are waking up to their own authority. This is not just content, this is confirmation. And you are part of the mission to spread it. You just rocked somebody's entire world. Their evil agenda is not falling apart. It already fell, and you are standing in the rubble completely untouched. Now go be everything they said you could not be. The universe is backing you, and that is a fight they will never win.